Hi everyone, welcome to Celestial. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about what it means to have Ketu, or the south node of the moon, in the 7th house of your D9 Navamsa chart. Now the D9 Navamsa chart is an incredibly important divisional chart in Vedic astrology. It's a chart that is very deeply connected to your spiritual development in this life. It is a chart that is also called the height of fortune. But for the sake of this video and the 7th house Navamsa series, I'm just going to be talking about what this energy means in regard to your spouse or long-term partner. And just a quick little disclaimer, I don't go into certain facial features of the spouse or long-term partner in this series. I won't talk about skin color either. And while I can acknowledge and understand that sometimes people like to know about this information, whether it's individualistic reasons or cultural reasons, I just want to be very transparent and let you know that I don't go into those in this video. And the reasoning behind that is I feel like a lot of people in this world suffer because of things that they can't control, such as the color of their skin or certain features. So I just want to do my part to not peddle that kind of grief and suffering forward. I'm grateful for your understanding, and with that being said, let's get into today's video. So a lot like the Rahu, or the north node of the moon, in the 7th house of the Navamsa chart video, having Ketu, or the south node of the moon, in the 7th house is going to be a little bit difficult to describe the concrete characteristics or traits of the spouse or long-term partner. And that's solely because when the nodes are involved in the 7th house, you have to look very strongly to the sign that they're sitting in and what that dispositor is doing. So for example, if Ketu, or the south node of the moon, was in Libra or Taurus, you'd want to look at what Venus is doing, which house it's sitting in, which sign it's going to, and so on. Doing this will allow you to gain a deeper understanding of your spouse or long-term partner. It's a little bit difficult to do that when you just have the south node of the moon or Ketu in the 7th house. But when you do have this placement, there's a very strong indication that, of course, the relationship with your spouse or long-term partner is going to be very karmic in nature. It's very likely that when you meet your spouse or long-term partner, you will have an inner knowing or even a pull towards them. You may feel like they are familiar to you or you recognize them in some way. Now, sometimes this can indicate that a past lover, an ex potentially, is coming back to you again, maybe after many years or many months. But this almost always indicates that it is a past life lover, so somebody that's coming back to you, somebody that you have some sort of karmic history with in the romantic sense. Having Ketu, or the south node, in the 7th house of your D9 Navamsa chart indicates past life experiences and unresolved karmic patterns that significantly influence your approach to relationships in this lifetime. You're going to have your fair share of challenges with this position, or even hiccups here and there. These challenges or difficulties that you may face could stem from past life attachments, karmic debts, or unresolved issues that need to be addressed and balanced in this lifetime. And again, it's going to be incredibly important to look at what sign Ketu, or the south node of the moon, is sitting in your 7th house, and what that dispositor is doing, and where it's going, what nakshatra it's sitting in, and so on. Now, having this placement, having the south node of the moon and Ketu in the 7th house of your D9 Navamsa chart, usually indicates that you have to practice some sense of detachment with the spouse or long-term partner. Now, what kind of detachment it is specifically can vary. A lot of people assume that it is detachment in the physical sense, that you have to stay away from this person, and that can also be the case to some level or to some extent. It's also important to know that astrology, just like many other subjects, need to evolve according to the times that we're living in. So modern day translation could very well be that you have a partner that works as much as you do, so you don't see each other very much, you don't get to spend a lot of time together. This actually does also fulfill the Ketu, or the south node in the 7th, requirement of that kind of detachment or distance to some level. It doesn't necessarily indicate unhappiness. Again, you want to look at the sign that it's sitting in and any aspects that are happening to this Ketu or south node in the 7th. Now, as I was saying a little bit earlier, it is recommended or suggested that you do practice some sort of detachment. This can very well be taking time away from your partner and going for walks by yourself, perhaps meditating, taking yourself out on dates, and etc. It does not mean that you have to ignore or reject your partner or intimacy or anything like that whatsoever. Though having Ketu, or the south node of the moon, in the 7th house can indicate that there's a struggle with intimacy and even emotional expression to some extent, you or the partner may have a tendency to keep relationships at arm's length due to past life experiences or even spiritual inclinations. Now, if this Ketu or the South Node is sitting in a Martian sign, even a Saturnian sign, so if it's sitting in Aries or Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius to some extent, this is going to add more challenges to your partnership with your spouse or long-term partner. It's going to usually indicate that you have some animosity or some very harsh kind of lessons to play out with this person due to past life actions of either you or the other individual. Now, this marriage, this union, this relationship is not going to be very easy to get into or even let go of. In fact, you may find that it's easier to get into a relationship than it is to actually let go of this person. And if you do have to let go of them physically, their karmic imprint and memory usually remains in your heart, mind, and soul. This is a very tremendously difficult connection to shake or remove. Now, with that being said, if you're in a relationship or union that is causing you harm in any sense, physical, emotional, mental, verbal, spiritual, and so on, I highly urge you to please get out of it and please seek assistance and support. Astrology in no way is here to punish you. Your life is not a punishment. Certain placements don't indicate that you need to tolerate abuse or suffering in any way. If you're with somebody that treats you like this, please do end this dynamic and union as soon as you possibly can. Please make sure that you're safe in all ways and for always. Having Ketu or the South Node of the Moon in the 7th house of your D9 Navamsa chart usually does indicate that you have to let go of certain elements or parts of this marriage or union. Now, if you have really wonderful planets connected or aligned with this Ketu or South Node, such as the Moon or Venus and even Jupiter to some extent, it can usually indicate that after you work out the karmic imbalance you have with your spouse or long-term partner, the relationship can become very pleasant. The charts that I've read that have Ketu or the South Node in the 7th house of their Navamsa chart usually do have some sort of detachment with the spouse or long-term partner or with the actual constitution of marriage. So this could very well indicate that you may love your partner very much, you're incredibly close, but you don't participate in the marriage or fulfill your duties in the marriage or union in a traditional sense. You're kind of detached from that, so you do it your own way. So again, this could be very positive as well. You'd have to look at the chart as a whole and of course your synastry. Having this placement very strongly indicates that you have different opportunities for spiritual growth and evolution through your relationships, and especially through this marriage or union. It's likely that through this marriage or union or through your spouse and long-term partner, you learn very valuable lessons about detachment, unconditional love, forgiveness, and what the deeper purpose behind life and union really is. You can find, and depending on what's happening in the 7th house of your D1 or Lagna chart and other things in the chart, that perhaps you're somebody that almost compulsively got into relationships before, but once you meet your spouse or long-term partner, you're a little bit more detached. It could also come from insecurity, but it could also come from because you have an inner comfort with this person. You have security with this person that comes from your past lives together. So sometimes I've seen in different relationships where an individual gets into relationships and they've had to battle a lot of themes around insecurity and jealousy and etc. But once they find, quote, their person or the spouse and long-term partner, that those jealousy or insecurities kind of go away. They get a deep sense of comfort through the actual spouse and partner. So your spouse or long-term partner can help you shake a lot of unhealthy habits that you have or unhealthy attachments that you've practiced in your prior relationships. You can kind of shed those through this union with them. Having Ketu or the South Node of the Moon in the 7th house of your D9 Navamsa chart can indicate a lack of interest or fulfillment in the conventional marriage or traditional relationship structure. It's likely that you seek unconventional partnerships, or at least your partnership with your spouse or long-term partner is going to be unconventional in some sense. It's also likely that you seek a deep spiritual connection, that you may be somebody that wants to commit to somebody that you feel like you have a spiritual or past life connection with. In this life, because you would have Rahu or the North Node in the 1st house of your Navamsa chart, you are encouraged by the universe to step more out as an individual, to not rely so heavily on your partner or relationships. And this, of course, is going to be a little bit challenging. It's going to be a little bit awkward because you have many past lives where you've kind of mastered or at least been involved in many different types of relationships. You've gained a lot of wisdom. So this can be your comfort zone in this life, especially on a very spiritual and internal level. But again, you are being encouraged to kind of step away from relationships, at least on a very codependent sense, to learn to trust yourself, to kind of cultivate more individualistic traits, to step out and go after what it is that you want, knowing and trusting that your partner or your relationship will still be there for you and they are a solid base for you, but not something that holds you back from being your own person. Having Ketu or the South Node in your 7th house is usually asking you to release your attachments or expectations, even illusions related to your relationship. Now, this doesn't mean that the universe or your karmas are asking you to release your marriage or union or your partner. It's instead encouraging you to kind of step out for yourself and explore what it is that you want to do and who you are in this life, especially at a spiritual level. If there are malefic aspects or there are other things at play, you can find that you can be dissatisfied in your partnerships or marriage and union to some extent. This can have a lot to do with your expectations. And now, having expectations is not a bad thing. You should most certainly have them. Everyone should have expectations. But with Ketu and the South Node of the Moon in the 7th house, you want to manage those a little bit more, especially if you have a Neptune aspect. Then you want to make sure that you're being very grounded before you commit to somebody. You may find that in your initial days, when you kind of start to build relationships, you may struggle to balance independence and different partnership dynamics. It's going to be tremendously important for you to find a harmonious middle ground where you can maintain your autonomy while also fostering healthy and meaningful connections to others. Your marriage or union may carry deep emotional resonance, intense lessons, and even opportunities for mutual healing and growth. With Ketu or the South Node of the Moon in the 7th house of your D9 Navamsa chart, you're encouraged to confront your past life karmic patterns instead of running away from them. You want to be mindful that Ketu indicates detachment from things that no longer serve you. It doesn't indicate detachment from responsibility or accountability. So this in no way suggests that you should do whatever you want with your spouse or long-term partner and then kind of detach from them. If you've hurt somebody's feelings and sentiments, you should of course go out of your way to make it up to them and to resolve things. And this is of course going to go both ways. You want to make sure that your partner is also honoring and respecting who you are and your boundaries as well. I do want to state that because a lot of people do get fearful when they see Ketu or the South Node of the Moon in the 7th in their Navamsa chart, because a lot of people have read things or heard things that indicate that they're going to be very unhappy with their partner or union. And again, this is not necessarily the case. I've seen a lot of charts where people are incredibly happy because they're very spiritually evolved beings, or their relationship is rooted in spirituality and things that are beyond the mundane. Again, and I can't stress this enough, Ketu or the South Node of the Moon is not asking you to detach from happiness. It's not asking you to detach from love. It's not asking you to detach from what you feel you deserve, whether that's respect, consideration, care, kindness, or etc. Ketu or the South Node of the Moon is asking you to detach from things that no longer serve you and that could possibly harm you in the spiritual sense, and of course in the physical, emotional, mental sense. It's very likely that your spouse or long-term partner in this life is somebody who has a very strong spiritual orientation, or they may be inclined towards metaphysical pursuits as well. Your spouse or long-term partner may value inner growth, self-discovery, and a deeper understanding of life's mysteries. And if there are other aspects at play, especially from Mars or the Sun, you can find that your spouse or long-term partner can have a tendency to prioritize their own personal freedom or independence and even spiritual pursuits over traditional relationship expectations. And if your partner is doing that, that's not them trying to cause you harm. That's not the universe trying to punish you. Sometimes we meet our spiritual teachers from past lives in many different ways, and sometimes they teach us things directly or indirectly through words or even through their actions. So if you find that your partner is extremely independent, they are likely not being independent because they are wanting to consciously cause you harm or hurt your feelings. Perhaps the universe is trying to show you that you should mirror this kind of independence or go after the things that you want, just like your partner does. You can find with this placement with Ketu or the South Node of the Moon in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart that your spouse or long-term partner may have less emphasis on materialism, status, or external validations in relationships or even just in general. It's likely that your spouse or long-term partner values simplicity, authenticity, and inner fulfillment over external achievements or societal expectations. Your spouse or long-term partner can have a lot of wisdom, insight, and even a deeper understanding of life's complexities. You can find that your spouse or long-term partner may have unique perspectives about the world or even your partnership. They can have very strong intuitive abilities and a natural inclination towards introspection and self-awareness. It's very likely that your spouse or long-term partner is somebody who's extremely aware of who they are as a person. So you may face some kind of reluctance initially with them, so they may kind of hesitate to get into a concrete relationship with you initially. And this usually has something to do with them having a fear that they will lose their independence or individuality in some sense. It's very likely that your spouse or long-term partner is somebody that will need a lot of freedom or may need a lot of space. So this doesn't mean that they're out of the house all the time. They can be in the house with you, but maybe they like to be by themselves in the room, or they want to sit outside on the balcony by themselves or go for a walk by themselves. It's going to be incredibly important for your relationship health that you spend some time apart and focus on your own individual spiritual journeys along with your union as well. Now, while Ketu, or the south node of the moon, can bring detachment, it also very strongly signifies emotional depth and even intensity. You can find that your spouse or your long-term partner has a very rich inner world, even profound emotional experiences throughout their life. They can have a very strong capacity for empathy and understanding beyond surface-level interactions. So you can find that this person can really see through the mask or the veil that other people have. They can have very strong intuitive powers, very, very powerful insight and intuition in general. Now, if there are other aspects, such as if there's a difficult aspect from Mars, to some extent Saturn, even Neptune, Pluto, it can indicate some mental health challenges as well. Perhaps on some level, it can also indicate that the partner can struggle with the more materialistic side of life. So you may have to step in and help them with their routines or kind of getting things in order, whether that's the mortgage, taxes, bills, and etc. If there are a lot of positive aspects to this Ketu or south node, it can indicate that your spouse or long-term partner very deeply and strongly supports you in overcoming your past traumas, even helping you release unhealthy attachments and even evolving on a soul level. You'll find that your spouse or long-term partner and you can actually share interests in mysticism, spirituality, occultism, or even metaphysical subjects. You both can explore esoteric practices together. You can engage in a lot of deep conversations about life's mysteries or the purpose of life, and you'll really strongly support each other's spiritual journeys as well. You can find that your spouse or long-term partner is a very detached individual. Now, somebody who's detached doesn't mean that they're incapable of feeling love or care for somebody else. It just means that they don't necessarily have an attachment to the physical world. You can even find that your spouse or long-term partner is a bit of a perfectionist in everything that they do, especially when it comes to themselves. If there are not a lot of negative aspects, it can indicate your spouse or long-term partner is somebody that has extremely sharp intellectual skills, so they can comprehend very difficult problems and kind of break them down almost seamlessly. If this Ketu or the south node of the moon is connected to Mercury in some sense, it can indicate someone who's extremely stubborn about the way that they think, so it's very difficult for them to change their beliefs. If there are difficult aspects from even the more pleasant planets, so even if there is a square from Moon coming in, Jupiter, Venus, it can indicate that your partner has a very set perspective or a set way of doing things, expectations that they have, and it can be very difficult for you to change their mind. And this is usually rooted from many past lives, so it's likely that your partner can say that this is just the way that they are and this is how they've always been, and this can even go into their past lives. Now, if you have even a lot of positive aspects to this Ketu or south node of the moon, one thing I've noticed that it's very unlikely that your partner is going to want to change for you in some sense. So if you've committed to somebody that has never been a romantic with you, at least in the dating and courting phase, and after marriage or moving in together, you want them to be more romantic, such as bring you flowers, it's usually unlikely that the partner will end up doing this for you. They're going to be very set in their ways. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't do anything for you, period. It just may mean that if this is something that they haven't done before, something that's very foreign to them, they're unlikely to adopt this for you. I've noticed that having Ketu or the south node of the moon in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart doesn't really give you a partner that's very teachable. It more so gives you a partner that's tremendously rooted in who they are, and this comes from their past lives. So it's going to be a little bit challenging to kind of get them to do things your way. You may feel like when you're talking to them about certain things that you want from them, or again, keywords, certain things that you expect from them, they kind of become a little bit headless. So if you have this placement, it's going to be tremendously important for you to really get to know your partner before you commit to them, especially with marriage. Please don't go into a marriage with somebody thinking that they will change for you or that you will be able to change them. This is most certainly not the case when you have Ketu or the south node of the moon in the 7th house, especially in your Navamsa chart. One quote that goes really well with this position is when somebody shows you who they are, you should believe them the first time. Please don't go committing to somebody with the thought that, oh, they will eventually change their mind for you. You're already starting the relationship off on the wrong foot if you're wanting them to change significantly for you. It's better to sit with them and communicate what it is that you expect from them, what kind of things you like, and they can just tell you honestly if this is something that's doable for them or not. Having Ketu, or the south node of the moon, in the 7th house, especially in your Navamsa chart, is very strongly encouraging you to be critical and practice discernment when it comes to choosing a long-term partner. Now, as for finding your spouse and when you'll find them, I've seen this kind of go either way. Some people find this partner much early on and they kind of break up and get back together later on. Some people may find their partner much later on in life. This is going to very much depend on the rest of your chart and again, just your emotional and spiritual development and where you are in your path. Having Ketu, or the south node of the moon, in the 7th house of your Navamsa chart gives you a spouse or a partner who is spiritually inclined or may possess a detached attitude towards worldly matters. This is again going to be somebody who prioritizes spiritual growth, introspection, and even solitude. So if you're going through a hard phase in your relationship, and everybody does, even if you have the best planets in the 7th house, it's just a part of being human and the human experience. The best thing you can do for your marriage or union or your partner is to give them space, especially if you have Ketu in the 7th house. Just give them space, let them be on their own for a little bit, let them ground themselves. You also practice some grounding, and then you can come back together and resolve whatever problem you're going through. This is a placement that may also really align with the saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. So you can find that if you spend some time apart, even go on a weekend trip with your friends without your partner, just do things by yourself as well, that when you come back to your spouse or long-term partner, that you're in a better place with them. You feel recharged spiritually and emotionally, and this can also be true for your partner. Now, if there are some more difficult aspects, it can indicate a divorce or separation as well. And you'll find this is usually happening because of unmanaged expectations or wanting your partner to change in a way that they just absolutely cannot. So again, I cannot stress enough that please be critical of who you want to enter into a legal binding union with in this life. Please make sure that you like the person that you want to commit to. Love comes and goes, but it's very important that you like who they are as an individual, especially if you have Ketu or the south node in the 7th house. Please don't go into this union or marriage thinking that you can change this person or that they will change the way that they think and who they are, because this is most certainly not the case with this placement. Try to take time to get to know this person, be critical, write down what it is that you like and don't like, maybe even make a pros and cons list, whatever helps you figure out what it is that you're looking for in your partner. And above all else, make sure you honor who you are on a spiritual level and what your spiritual journey is in this life. With that being said, I'm going to wrap this video. This marks the end of our planets through the 7th house of the Navamsa series. I'm excited to close this series. It's been a really, really fun series for me to do. We've gotten a lot of feedback. It seems like a lot of people enjoyed it. I'm deeply grateful and appreciative of all your love and support. It really means a lot to me. It means a lot to our team. I'm very, very excited to start our next series, which I won't tell you about, but you will find out about as soon as I upload the video. I hope 2024 has been kind to you. I hope you're having a wonderful April so far. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope if nothing else, this video offered you a different perspective. I hope you're keeping well. I hope you're keeping safe. And until next time.